Hola, bienvenidos al Spanish Grammar Review. I'm Molly Martin, and this podcast comes to you from DocMolly.com, where you'll find interactive audio lessons that teach practical Spanish for healthcare and elsewhere. ¿Listos? Empecemos. As many of you know, I also host the Medical Spanish podcast. And although this podcast focuses on medical topics, we also cover a lot of advanced Spanish grammar. Recently, I presented an interview I did while studying at the San Pedro Spanish School in Guatemala. I interviewed a folk healer named Francisco Chavajay. In the Premium Medical Spanish podcast, we go over each line of this interview and practice interpreting key phrases. As we do this, we review key grammar points. So in this free grammar podcast, I'm going to give you a sampling of those grammar points and we'll reinforce them with further examples. Listen to Don Francisco's response when I asked him how one becomes a curandero, a folk healer.
Fíjese que para ser curandero uno no aprende, no le enseñan, sino que lo trae desde el vientre de la madre.
One more time.
Fíjese que para ser curandero uno no aprende, no le enseñan, sino que lo trae desde el vientre de la madre.
So we're going to cover 3 grammar points from this excerpt. First, he begins his response with the common expression Fíjese, the formal or usted command for Fijarse. Fíjese. Now, if speaking casually, you could also use the casual command Fíjate. Both these commands, Fíjese or Fíjate, are a way of getting your attention before making a statement. It's like saying, you see, or note that. Speaking casually, how would you say to a friend, look, they're very expensive? Fíjate que son muy caros. Now using the formal command fíjese, how did Don Francisco say, you see, to be a curandero, one doesn't learn.
Fíjese que para ser curandero uno no aprende.
Now listen how Don Francisco uses the third person plural to express a passive action.
No le enseñan.
No le enseñan. One isn't taught. So here, the subject is an unspecified they, and literally this translates to, they don't teach one. The third person plural is often used in Spanish to express passive actions, so that no le enseñan is translated as one isn't taught. So interpret that again. One isn't taught.
No le enseñan.
Now using the same passive construction with the verb ingresar, how would you say, I was admitted to the hospital? Me ingresaron en el hospital. Now try, she was taught to respect her elders, los mayores. Le enseñaron a respetar a los mayores. Now listen to how Don Francisco uses sino que as a conjunction meaning rather or instead.
No le enseñan, sino que lo trae desde el vientre de la madre.
One isn't taught, rather one gets it from the womb of the mother.
No le enseñan, sino que lo trae desde el vientre de la madre.
Now it's your turn. Interpret, one isn't taught, rather one gets it from the womb of the mother.
no le enseñan, sino que le trae desde el vientre de la madre.
Now, using the verbs animar and reñir, interpret, they did not scold me. Instead, they encouraged me. No me riñeron, sino que me animaron. Try that one again. They did not scold me. Instead, they encouraged me. No me riñeron, sino que me animaron. And that wraps up today's free podcast. If you would like to keep going and review more grammar points from this interview with Don Francisco, you can subscribe to the premium Spanish grammar podcast at docmolly.com. And even if you don't work in healthcare, you may also want to check out the Medical Spanish podcast. The clinical dialogues and interviews presented in this podcast provide an effective method of learning key grammatical concepts used in everyday Spanish conversation. Gracias por escuchar y hasta la próxima. This is a production of DocMolly.com, where you will find interactive audio lessons that teach Spanish for healthcare and elsewhere.